Alright, so today we're going to be talking about all of the cards on the Final Fantasy bonus sheet and ranking them tier list style, as you can see here. Also, just, talking about how good they are and what cards you want to pair with the cards in the sheet. I know there's a lot of cards that people haven't played with on this bonus sheet, which has led to a lot of people passing me good cards that I don't think should be passed, basically. A lot of cards that are in the no pass list, and, I get them fourth pick or something. So I'm sure that's just, unfamiliarity with these cards. Not everybody has played with them. It also might be a matter of, hey, these cards are actually very difficult to read. Somebody might actually misread them because, the contrast here of the text and the art, not so good. But anyways, yeah, we're just going to be going through these, ranking these, A to F, limited resources, letter grade style, and we'll just jump in. Okay, so first up is Strom, Senior Artificer, and I'm going to be calling these by their actual Magic names, not the Final Fantasy names, so forgive me if you're looking forward to that. I'm also talking about these cards from memory mostly, because these images here, as you can see on the tier list, are very small, and I actually can't read these super well. I'm going to post, of course, along with the video, a bigger image of all these cards, so you at home watching don't have this issue. But just bear with me if I get a word or two wrong here. So, Strom Senior Artificer is a 1 and a white 2/2 legendary creature. It says whenever you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle spell, you draw a card. Yeah, this is a really good start for Strom, right? Just a bunch of common equipment running around, the job select equipment. There's a couple of vehicles. There's an aura or two. So yeah, I've seen Strom in play. My opponent had it one game. They drew 3 cards off of it before I was able to kill it. So yeah, really good card. I think kind of bordering on B tier and A tier. If you have, I'd say, 3 equipment, it's probably going to be at the B tier. The more the merrier, though. I can definitely see some decks where it creeps into that A tier. So I'm going to land Stram on B, but really quality card. Oh, also, sorry, just before we go into the next one, I just remembered, I didn't say this in the intro, but for those who don't know how the bonus sheet works in this set, they're in a third of packs. So you don't see these in every single pack, but, in your given draft, you'll see 8-ish on average, or 8 will be opened. Anyways, okay, so next card. Next one, we've got, this one's a banger. We've got Adeline, Resplendent Cathar. So Adeline is a 1 white star 4 legendary creature. She's got Vigilance. And she says, whenever you attack, not just with Adeline, but whenever you attack, you make a tapped and attacking 1/1 token. And Adeline's power is equal to the number of creatures you control. This just goes straight into the A tier. Adeline is excellent. She's an army in a can. She gets giant very, very quickly. 4 toughness is huge. Has immediate impact. Just a phenomenal white aggro card. Really not much else to say about that. Next up, we've got Ranger Captain of Eos. So this is 1 white for a 3/3. When it enters, you can search your library for a 1 cost or less creature. I don't think there's any 0 cost creatures in the set, but 1 cost creature, put it into your hand. You can also sacrifice Ranger of Eos at any time to have your opponent not be able to cast non-creature spells this turn. So that's something you're going to want to do on your opponent's upkeep. Not very often, something where you go okay, well, I've got this game locked up as long as they don't cast the Wrath. Let's just sack it on their upkeep so they can't cast Ultima or whatever. That part of the card not as relevant. Mostly this is a 3-mana 3/3 that goes and gets a 1-drop, and that's pretty darn good, especially in white where we've got Magitech Infantry, one of the better commons in the set. So being able to search that out and then search out your other ones, just search out your whole deck basically of all your threats. That's awesome. Also in other colors, you can go get Saz Chocobo in green, Blazing Bomb in red-white, Tonberry in black. So this isn't a set that's littered with 1-drops, but there's a few in there. So as long as you have 2 1-drops, I would say. I don't think you want to play this with just 1 1-drop, because if you draw that 1-drop, and this is just a 3-mana 3/3 with a minor ability, not so good. With any number of 1-drops, and the more the merrier with this, very, very good in the white Magitech Infantry style decks. Yeah, solid card. So somewhere between the B tier and the C tier, I'm going to give it the optimistic B, as, let's just say you have 2 or 3 of them, and especially in a heavy white deck where it's easy to cast on curve. Okay, we've got Counterspell. So one thing to call out about these bonus sheet cards, another thing I didn't call out, is that some of these are uncommon and some of these are rare and mythic. So cards like Counterspell, Deadly Dispute, there's a few that I'm sure you've seen draft in, draft out. Fatal Push, these are the uncommon ones. These ones appear fairly often. So Counterspell is one of those, and I'll call those out when we get to them. Counterspell? Yeah, Counterspell is great. This is just blue, counter target spell, the OG. I'm going to put that just in the B tier as a great interaction spell, especially because blue is so good in this format. You do, of course, want to make sure that you have a fairly heavy blue mana base, so you can cast this on turn 2 with some regularity. But even if you don't, it's still playable, right? It's still going to be a pretty good card. It just means that you'll have to play it a little bit later. Next up, we've got another banger, Urza, High Artificer. So this is 2 blue for a 1/4 legendary creature. When Urza enters, you make a star construct token, artifact token, that has power and toughness equal to the number of artifacts you control. It also has the ability tap an artifact you control, add blue mana. That's not a tap ability for those creatures. You can just do it right away. So if you play an artifact creature, you can tap that right away for mana. And also has the ability 5, shuffle your library, reveal the top card of your library. You can play that card this turn without paying its mana cost. Yeah, this card is just excellent. It's just straight into the A tier, one of the best cards in the set. So you're getting like a 4 mana 1/4 with, you know, even if you have no other artifacts, a 1/1 token, which isn't great, right? But then it starts drawing you more cards, just like it's a good mana sink. And of course, if you're at all in the artifact deck or have some artifacts, it gets more absurd. You can just like spin the wheel twice per turn sometimes. So yeah, just easy A on Urza. Next up, one of my favorite cards of all time, actually, Venser, Shaper Savant. So Venser is 2 blue for a 2/2 legendary creature with Flash. When Venser enters, you return target spell or permanent to its owner's hand. So yeah, just a nifty little creature, right? You just play it on turn 4, bounce their 4-drop either on the stack or on the battlefield. There's a lot of tokens running around in this set, so Venser just kills tokens. You can do things like flash the thing in combat, eat a 1/1 plus bounce their 4-drop. So yeah, just very versatile card. Once again, you know, it's blue, and blue is great in this set, so I'm going to give a little bit of a bump to that. And I'm going to give a B to Venser. Next up, we come to a weird one. So the next one is Bolas's Citadel. And Bolas's Citadel is a 3 black legendary artifact. It says you can look at the top card of your library at any time. You can cast spells from the top of your library, but you don't spend mana on them. You spend life instead, equal to their mana value. And you can tap it and sacrifice 10 permanents. Could be the Citadel. Citadel is included. 10 non-land permanents to deal 10 damage to each opponent. So yeah, kind of a weird one. It's a powerful card, right? Because if you can land it on turn 6 and you have a fairly healthy life total still, you can just start, you know, going through the top of your deck, casting a bunch of stuff. It's also pretty easy to kill your opponent at that point, just deal them 10. So yeah, it's not going to be for every deck. I think that if you have life gain, if you have early board presence, ideally, so you don't get run over, so you can keep your life total high. If you've got, you know, any kind of sacrificey foddery stuff, so you can make use of that 10 damage to the face mode. I like it. I do think it's not a generically good card. Like, you have to have all those pieces in place. You have to, you know, have some life gain, have some trinkety things. So because of that, I wouldn't really recommend it as an early pick. So if you are in a heavy black deck and you have all those requirements, it's still pretty powerful. So it comes with some costs, but it has a ceiling there. So I'm going to plop Citadel down in the seed tier. Next up, I think a fairly quick one, Dark Ritual, single black mana for an instant. You add black. And yeah, this is just the kind of card that you generally don't want to play in limited. Like, the idea with a ritual is either you're comboing with it, like you're playing to kill your opponent with some storm combo the turn you cast it, or you know, in some situations where you just have like access to a million cards, like you're casting a draw 7. Yeah, I'm mostly talking about like constructed here. You don't care that you're going down a full card just to add mana, but generally in limited, being down a full card is a pretty big cost. So I think we can just give that one a pretty quick F. Fatal Push. Fatal Push is a nice one. Single black mana for an instant. Destroy target creature if its mana value is 2 or less. But if you have enabled a Revolt, which means a permanent has left the battlefield on your side this turn, either gone to the graveyard or you've picked it up somehow, this thing can kill a 4 mana value creature or less. This is one of the uncommon ones, by the way. And yeah, I think this is just a really solid removal spell. So kills 2 drops, kills 1 drops, kills tokens, and it's not that difficult to enable Revolt. You know, sometimes you have some awkward spots where maybe you have to chump block with something that you didn't really want to chump block or chump attack. Really nice with this is treasures, right? Because treasures do enable this, and you can just cast a single mana card off of 1 treasure. So yeah, generally good card. I take this one pretty highly, and yeah, I just put that in the B tier. Next up is Sir Conrad. Okay, this is going to be one that's a little bit tough for memory, but let's see if I can do it. So 3 black for a 5/4 legendary creature. Whenever another creature dies, or a card is put into a graveyard from anywhere, so that could be your deck or, their deck or, your stuff, their stuff, or a card leaves your graveyard. I think those are all the triggers. You deal 1 damage to each opponent. Also has the ability, 1 in a black, each player mills a card. Yeah, a pretty good top-end threat for the black attrition-y decks. This does stand to do a lot of damage out of nowhere. It is a 5-mana, no enter the battlefield, no protection creature. It sort of has immediate impact, of course, because you set up a big attack and your opponent loses life even if they block. So yeah, impactful top-end card. Still not, not one of the B tier, A tier kind of cards. It almost creeps into the B tier. I think if you do have like a lot of ways to trigger it, or you're just very fodder heavy, sacrifice heavy. If you have a sacrifice outlaw, you can really combo with this. Kind of creeps into the B tier, but I'm gonna plop it down in the C tier for now. Next up, we've got Urza's counterpart here, Yawgmoth. So this is 2 black for a 2/4 legendary creature. Protection from humans, which is great because there's a lot of humans in this set. Also has the ability, pay 1 life, sacrifice a creature. You draw a card and you put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature. Also has the ability, black, discard a card, proliferate. So I'm just gonna quickly put this in the A tier because it's a very strong card, excellent card. This is one I've gotten a lot of questions about, like, why is this so good? What's so good about this card? Well, the protection from humans, that's part of it. But the fact that you play this card, and just imagine this on a board of, you've just gone like 2-drop, 3-drop into Yawgmoth. Your opponent's kind of done something similar. Combat is very, very difficult for your opponent to win profitably when this card's in the battlefield. Because all of your creatures turn into like a block, sack, put a -1/-1 counter on something else, you draw a card. All your opponent's X1s just die to a sacrifice as you're drawing cards here. You can also set it up so, you put multiple counters on multiple creatures, and then you proliferate, which means, for those who don't know proliferate, that's choose any number of permanents or players with counters on them. You then get to put another one of those counters on any number of permanents or players. So basically what this means is you go, okay, -1 counter on that creature, on that creature, on that creature. I discard a card. They all get another -1/-1 creature. So it's just this engine that sits there, good with sacrifice fodder, which there's a lot of in this set, makes combat very difficult, draws you a bunch of cards, has protection. The list goes on and on. I do think it's a card that you don't grok exactly how good it is until you see it in play. When your opponent plays this for the first time, you're like, crap, like, what am I supposed to do against that? Blanks your opponent's removal, too. That's a big thing, right? They go, okay, remove your threat, and you go, okay, sack it, draw a card, sure. Next up is Ancient Copper Dragon. This is a 6-mana red, 6/5 flyer. Whenever it deals damage to an opponent, you roll a d20, and you make that many treasures. Kind of just a big dummy, like nothing too exciting. It hits pretty hard. By the time you make all these treasures, unless you have a way to like sack them, you're not really doing that much with them. And, it's no protection, no enter the battlefield effect. So yeah, I'm just going to give this one a D. It's not an unplayable card or anything, but it's really nothing special. Next up, we have a 6-drop that is really good. So we've got Godo, which is a 5 and a red 3/3, a legendary creature. When it enters, you search your library for an equipment card, put it into play, so that's really nice. And whenever Godo attacks for the first time each turn, untap all samurai you control. And there's an additional combat phase after this. And samurai in this set, fairly few, but Samurai's Katana does turn things into samurai, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, no, this is a good card. This is a good 6-drop. Like, it's a 6-mana 3/3 that puts a Katana on the battlefield, or a White Mage's Staff, and gives you multiple combats. So, I'm sort of torn between the A tier and the B tier. I think just looking at the cards in the A tier, I'm going to put it in the B tier because it's not quite as good as these ones. But yeah, Godo's still a pretty solid one. Next up, we've got Perforos, God of the Forge. So this one is a 4 and a red, 6/5 indestructible. Sounds awesome, but it's a god. So it isn't turned on unless your devotion to red is 5 or more, which means 5 red pips among the permanents you control. Perforos is included in that, so 4 other pips. And whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Perforos deals 2 damage to each opponent. Also has the ability 3 and a red, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. So yeah, this one, it's interesting. I think that in a heavy red deck, I would always play this, right? Just like if you can turn it on with some reliability, I'm pretty happy about it. One of the problems with that in this set is that I find it's pretty difficult for me to end up in a heavy red deck, red being one of the weaker colors. Red tends to be a support color for me, so actually getting to that devotion is kind of tricky. So if you're just thinking of this as kind of an enchantment that deals your opponent damage, well, it's still a little bit awkward there because it's a 4-mana card, so you're going to play a lot of your early creatures. And sure, you're going to get a few pings off of it later, right? You're going to draw more creatures, maybe you have some token makers, so it's not terrible there. I'm going to really just rank this as if you are a mono red deck or can turn on the red pretty easily, and I'm going to put it in the B tier. I think if you can't turn it on, it goes from a B to like a D. I think it's a really, really big drop off in power there. Next up, another pretty quick one, I think. Nyx Bloom Ancient is 4 green, green, green for a 5/5 trample. Whenever you tap a permanent for mana, you add 3 times that much mana instead. So it's a 7-mana 5/5 that then ramps you. That's a commander card in my mind, so I'm just going to put that in the F tier. Another one I think is fairly quick. Asusa Lost But Seeking is a 3-mana 1/2 in green. You can play 2 additional lands per turn. Just not really worth a card, I would say. You know, say this for the Amulet Titan players. I don't even know if they still play Asusa, but for limited, I'm going to put it in the F's tier. Next up, we've got Joda, which is a really cool card. So this is a 5-mana Wooburg card, so 1 of each color. A 5/5 legendary creature. It says legendary creatures get +X/+X for each legendary creature you control. Or more specific, legendary creatures you control get +X/+X for each legend you control. That also means that Joda counts itself with that wording, so really Joda is a natural 6/6, kind of weird. And it also gives all of your legendary creatures Cascade, essentially, which is like, whenever you cast a legend, you flip spells from the top of your library, or you flip cards from the top of your library until you hit a spell with mana value that is less than the card you just cast. You get to cast that card. So yeah, I mean, I think Joda's doable in this set. It is possible to get 5 colors of mana in this set for sure. It's possible to have a deck with like 6-7 legends. It's a little bit of a difficult build around, but I think you can get there. So if you have the mana base to cast it, if you've got like 6-7 legends, yeah, I think the card is worth it, and I would put Joda in the B tier. Next up is Timna, is a CEDH staple, and it says 1 black white for a 2/2 lifelink. That has some weird commander text, so I'm just going to read what it really means for us limited players. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, if you dealt damage to your opponent, you lose a life, draw a card. So yeah, I think this one is not all that great. Like 2/2 for 3. Like 2/2 for 3 with lifelink is like, what, a D level card. If you can deal damage with your other creatures, that, I guess you draw a card, but that's a bit of setup. This thing kind of just sits there. So I think mostly not a good card. I could see it in some black-white deck with like a lot of evasion. Maybe you go like, the gold 2-drop that has Menace. So it's like 2/2 Menace into Timna, draw a card. That's kind of cute. So there's some setups. There's some decks I can imagine it being better than a D. But I think on average, not going to be very good. Next up is Traxos. Traxos is 4-mana 7/7 artifact creature. It's legendary. It has Trample. It says it enters the battlefield tapped and doesn't untap during your untap step, but when you cast a historic spell, which is a legendary creature, a saga, or a artifact, you get to untap Traxos. So yeah, this is a pretty powerful threat in the artifact deck. Just kind of acts as like a 4-mana 7/7 Vigilant Trampler, which is really good. I also had an opponent untap this card, which with Sage's new list, the blue job select equipment that says like whenever you attack, you'll untap target attacking creature. So that was kind of cute. Also, you could play this deck if you have enough sagas. I would say you have to be pretty heavy on the number of sagas you have if you're not an artifact deck, or sagas and legendaries, right? That's kind of the two buckets. You're either an artifact deck that probably has some legendary creatures, or you're like a green deck with sagas and legendary creatures. In any case, I think you do need to have something in the neighborhood of like 10 or 11 cards that trigger this. You can't really afford for this to be tapped for multiple turns doing nothing. And if you're there, yeah, solid card. I'd give it a C. It's a powerful card when it works, but, takes a little bit of setup. Okay, next one. So this one, I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, cards that people pass, that I don't think they should pass. And this one I can kind of understand because it literally says, if you have your commander, do a thing. But if you read it in full and just like kind of figure out, both these modes are good, then I think it easily reads like a good card. So Akruma's Will, and I ain't going to put up the text for this one because I'm not going to get it right. It's 3 and a white for an instant. It says choose one. If you control a commander as you cast it, choose both instead. So it's got 2 modes. Both of them are busted. Creatures you control gain flying, vigilance, and double strike until end of turn. Okay, so that kills your opponent in most board states, right? Just like so much damage out of nowhere. The second mode is creatures you control gain lifelink, indestructible, and protection from all colors until end of turn. So yeah, both these effects are pretty absurd. If you're at all ahead, you kill them very quickly. If you're behind, maybe you make a big block and then give your team lifelink, indestructible, and protection from everything. Yeah, like, not much to say about this card. It's good, it's flexible, it's powerful. This one just goes straight in the A tier for me. It's also splashable. I guess I could say that about the card. Next up here, we got another banger. We've got Winota, which is a 2 white, red, 4/4 legendary creature. It says, whenever a non-human creature you control attacks, you may look at this top 6 cards of your library. You can put a human onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking, and it gains indestructible as well until end of turn. Put the rest of those cards in the bottom of your library. Yeah, Winota's great. She, terrorized certain construction formats for a while. And in this set, in red-white, really nice fit because the job select equipment, those make hero tokens. They're not human hero tokens, they're just hero tokens. So if you just go White Mage's Staff into 3-drop non-human, maybe the Paladin Shield, into this one, you attack. You likely get to find 1 human tapped and attacking, indestructible, maybe 2. It just, draws you cards and puts them on the battlefield, and it's just like such a incredibly powerful aggressive card. Yeah, would always take this, would always play it. There's also some non-aggro decks I would play in. Like, I could see splashing this in like a green deck sometimes if you've got enough, a good mix of humans and non-humans. And that's kind of the thing, the deck building cost of Winota, right? You want to have a good mix of humans and non-humans, kind of an even split. But yeah, fantastic card, just goes right in the A tier. Next up is another uncommon, Danitha. Danitha is a 2 and a white 2/2 legendary creature. She has first strike, vigilance, and lifelink, and says aura and equipment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Yeah, Danitha is a really good threat for the white decks too. Just very difficult to deal with in combat. Get 1 equipment on her, she kind of becomes a brick wall. You need interaction to deal with her. Makes your spells cheaper. Yeah, not much to hate about this one. I'm gonna put that squarely in the B tier. We've got Kenrith up next. Kenrith is a 4 and a white 5/5 legend. Kenrith is sort of a 5-color payoff card, a payoff for paying multiple colors. So 5 and a 5/5 that has 5 abilities, 1 for each color. The red ability is all creatures gain trample and haste until end of turn. The green ability is 1 and a green, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. The white ability is 2 and a white, target player gains 5 life. The blue ability is 3 and a blue, target player draws a card. And the black ability is 4 and a black, put target creature in a graveyard onto the battlefield under its owner's control. So that last one, be careful about that, because this is another card that is worded for Commander to be like played politically. You don't want to reanimate your opponent's stuff, right? You don't want to target your opponent's stuff. They will get the creature, right? So just be careful about that. But yeah, Kenny's a nice one. Really a card for the multicolor green decks, but I could also see playing this in, say, like a green-white deck or a white-blue deck. Like, you could play this in a 2-color deck and it would be just fine. But to really get use out of it, I think you want access to all the colors you can. Very, very strong, because it's just like, that gain 5 life mode is deceptively good, by the way. Just gaining sometimes 10 life a turn, and then you just stabilize, and you make your creatures giant, you draw cards, you give them haste. Kind of just does everything. So I'm going to put Kenny in the A tier. That is assuming you can activate all of its abilities. If you can't, if you're a 2-color deck, maybe a 3-color deck, probably more like the C tier. Next up is Loran. Loran's pretty sweet in this set too. This is 2 and a white for a 2/1 vigilance legendary creature. When she enters, you destroy a artifact or enchantment. Also has the ability tap, both players draw a card. So she's just a 3-mana 2/1 that blows up a job select equipment, or a stuck in Summoner Sanctum, or an artifact creature. That's good. You've gotten your money. That card draw ability, if you haven't encountered this before, it looks a little bit weird. Like, why would I want to let my opponent draw cards? Well, you have the choice, right? You can activate it or not. And generally, when you activate it, is either when, you're losing the game and you just need to find something, or when your opponent just has way more cards in hand than you. Like, say you have 2 cards in hand. They have 6 cards in hand. Just relatively speaking, you drawing a card when you have 3 cards in hand versus the opponent drawing a card when they have 6 cards in hand already, you're winning in that exchange, right? Because they already have a bunch of stuff to do with their mana. They can't cast all of the cards they draw right away, right? So yes, you might be upgrading a card in their hand where they go, oh, I have a better spell to play. I just drew into that. But that's kind of a fair trade-off. You don't want to just activate this willy-nilly. You don't just do it just to do it. But yeah, if you're losing the game, or if you are already down on cards, like you've dumped your hand and they still have cards in hand, yeah, it's a pretty good card just to activate. So yeah, Loran's good. I would put her in the B tier. Mangara the Diplomat is 3 and a white for a 2/4 legendary creature lifelink. And it says, whenever you're attacked with 2 or more creatures, you draw a card. And whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, you draw a card. So 4 mana 2/4 lifelink, that it's like fairly likely to draw you a card at some point. Right? Either it stops your opponent's attacks the turn it comes down, or they are stunted on double spelling. Even if you don't draw a card, it limits them to 1 card a turn. So yeah, I like this card. Definitely more for a slower white deck, or like a splash in a multicolor green deck. I wouldn't really want this in like my most aggressive decks, because like 2 mana 2/4 lifelink that it has defensive abilities for the most part is not what you want. But yeah, I would put it in the B tier, assuming that you are in a slower deck. Next up is a quick one. This is one of the uncommons. This is Stroke of Midnight, which is 2 and a white for an instant. Destroy target all-land permanent. Its controller creates a 1/1 human token creature. This one is an F. You should not play this card. It is a card that tricks you into playing it because it seems pretty good, right? Like 3 mana, destroy anything. Who cares? They get a 1/1. A 1/1's a big deal. It really is. They can jump block with it. They can sack it. They can double block. Just a piece of material is always going to be a cost. When you put this card in your deck, or you're considering it, you think like, oh, I could like blow up their bomb, or I could blow up their 7/7, right? And yeah, when you do that, it's true. It's not that bad to give them a 1/1. But when you're facing an aggro deck and they go 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop, and you're like, okay, I guess I kill your 4 and you still have a creature that can attack me, or you can equip. Like, it's not very good in any matchup where you're getting attacked. To any degree, right? Like, even like a blue-red deck, if you kill their Sahajin. Sure, you rather than have a 1/1 than a Sahajin, but you spent a card, you spent the mana. Next up is Wall of Omens. Wall of Omens is another uncommon. This is 1 and a white for a 0/4 defender. When it enters, draw a card. Yeah, really simple card, but a super effective one. Yeah, this card is quite strong. Has the caveat, like a few of the other white cards we've talked about already, that it's not really for the most aggressive decks. But if you're like a blue-white deck with some Galacats and you're flying over, just like this thing sitting on the ground, blocking all the ground creatures and drawing you a card, pretty darn good. The stats on this card are actually pretty good if you look on 17 lands. Kind of surprisingly so. I would have assumed that because so many of the white decks are aggressive, that this would have not performed as well. But it kind of just seems like there's either enough white decks that it's just fine in, or in those more aggressive white decks, this is still just a fine card. Maybe that's the that's the implication there as well. So in any case, I think this is somewhere between the B tier and the C tier. If you are a slower deck, I'm going to put it in the B tier. I think a not so slow deck goes a little bit lower. I'm also grading a lot of these kind of high because therefore, like, the optimistic, if they're in the deck, this is how you should value it. So, your mileage may vary as far as using this tier list as a pick order. Right? I wouldn't necessarily use this as a pick order guide or anything like that. I would kind of just think of it as like max power level in the deck that it belongs in. Next up is Brainstorm. Okay, so Brainstorm is a single blue mana for an instant. Draw 3 cards, and you put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library. So where you want Brainstorm is when you have a lot of shuffle effects or ways to clear the top of your library, so surveilling. Because the idea is, if you're just casting this as, okay, draw 3, and I get a bit of an early look at the cards I was going to draw, and then put 2 back, that's not amazing, right? Like, it really isn't accomplishing all that much. But if you can draw 3, put the 2 worst cards in your hand back, and then shuffle them away, that is really good. You're really improving the hand quality there. So I think you probably need something in the neighborhood of, like, 4 shuffle effects for this card to be good. It could be stuff like Precious Wandering, right? The ramp spell, or just like, anything that searches your library for land. There's quite a few of those in this set. It'll make its way into some decks, certainly. Never going to be like one of the best cards in your deck, and a lot of decks you're not going to play it in. But in the decks that have that number of shuffle effects, I think it's a pretty solid playable. Also had an opponent do the thing you kind of see in Construction sometimes, where I cast Poison the Waters. I think that's what it's called. Look at their hand, take an artifact or a creature. They brainstormed in response and hid the cards that they wanted. So I didn't get to see their best cards, which I thought was kind of cool. So keep that in mind. Next up, oh, banger, love this card. Cryptic Command. So this is 1 blue for an instant, and you choose 2. Either counter target spell, or return target permanent to its owner's hand, or tap all creatures your opponents control, or draw a card. So, just incredibly flexible card. Basically any combinations of modes, you're happy. Draw a card, counter target spell. When the time is right, draw a card, tap your opponent's team is awesome to prevent them from attacking for lethal, or for you to push lethal damage. Bounce a thing, draw a card, counter something, bounce something. Like, it's all good stuff. It's all really good stuff. Blue. Obviously a bit of an ask, but, a lot of my decks in this format have a lot of blue cards in them because they're all very good. So, yeah, I'm just going to put Cryptic in the A tier. Card is awesome. Next up, we've got Laboratory Maniac, another one of the uncommons. So this is 2 and a blue for a 2/2. It says, if you were to draw a card with an empty library, you win the game instead of losing the game. So this is for the super heavy black-green self-mill decks. Maybe you're splashing that, or maybe you're just a blue deck that has a ton of card draw. I have drafted those decks a lot, the blue decks and the green-black decks, and I've had the opportunity to put Labman in my deck, but I haven't really decided to do it. Look, I think the opportunities where this card would win you the game, where some other card in its place wouldn't, I don't think are very numerous. I think that also, it's susceptible to a removal spell. Your opponent can just remove this in response to you about to draw your card. So, I could maybe see this. I think it's more of a fun thing to do than a good thing to do, really. So I'm going to put it in the D tier. It's not quite an F by any means. It's the kind of build around where if you really wanted to go for it, the pieces are there, but it's easily disrupted, and I think you can just win easier ways, basically. Rhystic Study. Up next, the bane of Commander players everywhere. 2 and a blue for an enchantment. Do you pay the 1? Whenever your opponent casts a spell, you draw a card unless they pay 1 mana. This card is also an F. It seems more annoying than it actually is, because your opponent has complete agency over this, right? If the game is going fairly slowly, they just go, okay, I'll just pay the extra mana tacked on top. If the game is going quickly, you're an aggro deck. Okay, well, you probably don't care that much about your opponent drawing a bunch of cards. You're just going to kill them before it matters. And especially against those aggro decks, you play this, do nothing, right? You're not affecting the board. They go, great. That's awesome for me. So yeah, leave this to the Commander players. I do not think you should play Rhystic Study. Next up is OG Teferi. So Teferi is a 2 blue 3/4 legendary creature. Has flash. And says, spells that you have flash, and your opponent cannot cast things outside of sorcery speed. Kind of a cool card. I think the thing that's really holding this card back is the 3/4 body, 5 mana 3/4. It does stand to maybe eat something in combat, and the really nice thing is that, once you flash this in and it resolves, your opponent's 2/2s or 3/3s, they do get eaten. You don't have to worry about Teferi dying to a combat trick or a removal spell. So that is kind of nice, right? They can't respond in combat or anything. It also is pretty good in the blue matchups, of course. So yeah, this is kind of like, Cryptic Command had the cost of blue, and that's kind of a tough ask. This one also has blue, but doesn't pay you off quite enough, right? I think a little bit too low impact of an effect. So yeah, something in the C tier, the D tier. I think closer to the D tier. In some matchups, it's going to be a lot better. Your opponent casts this card, you've got a bunch of instants in hands, maybe a counter spell or two, and you're like, crap, that's really good here. But I think on average, Teferi is not great. Unfortunately, it's a cool card. Deadly Dispute, up next. This is another uncommon one that you see quite often. 1 and a black for an instant. As an additional cost, you sacrifice a creature or an artifact, draw 2, and make a treasure token. Yeah, this card's nice. I think the best version of this effect we've ever really had. Making a treasure on this effect is fantastic. Being able to sack a treasure is fantastic. I play this in most of my black decks, right? Most of my black decks just have sack fodder. They've got Heck Dies, and maybe they've got Mage's Staff, so you have job select equipments, or just, there's a lot of little trinkety things. And I think just most times you can sack something for value or cast this in response to a removal spell. So this one's not exactly a B-level card, but probably, if I were giving more tiers here, if I had more gradations, it's like a C+. I basically never really cut this from a black deck as long as I have enough fodder. Diabolic Intent is up next. This is 1 and a black for a sorcery. It's a demonic tutor, but you have to sacrifice a creature to cast it. So search your library for any card, but an additional cost of sacrificing a creature. Yeah, this is mostly F tier. I can imagine a deck where you've got a lot of fodder, so the sack doesn't cost you that much. Maybe a lot of the 2 mana 2/1s that die into a 1/1. and you've got some busted card to get, like one of the best cards in the set, like an Arden or something, I could see it, right? I think generally, though, it's an F. It has some niche applications, though, I will admit. Gix up next. Praetor of Yawgmoth. This is 1 black for a 3/3. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, you may pay 1 life and draw a card. Also has the ability 4 black, discard X cards, exile the top X cards of your opponent's library. You can cast any number of cards exiled this way. So kind of a supercharged Tymna, right? 1 color supercharged Tymna. I think has some of the similar problems that Tymna does, where there's actually like not that many evasive things in your black decks. Like it's pretty difficult to get in. So this isn't just going to come down and like draw 3 cards or whatever very often. But I think still just good enough, like threatening enough. Your opponent really has to care about it. Any flyer you do have, you can go like Aramon on turn 3, cast this, instantly get in for a card. That 7 mana ability is pretty relevant. So yeah, it's a card I like. I think it's a little bit mismatched with the black cards in this format, but still does belong in the B tier, I think. Another quick F is Crick. This is 4 and 3 Phyrexian black mana for a 2/2 lifelink. It says each black mana in your spells can be spent basically as Phyrexian mana, right? Two life instead of playing the mana, which is what Phyrexian mana is. So you can cast Crick for 4 and 6 life, which is extremely hefty. You don't want to do that. It also says whenever you cast a black spell, you can put a +1/+1 counter on Crick, which sort of kind of is looking to make up for the fact that you're spending a bunch of life on this card. But really not worth it. I would give Crick an F. I think even in a mono black deck, you don't want to play it. Next up is Varagoth, and Varagoth is a 2 and a black 2/3 legend with Death Touch. It has the Boast ability, which means you can activate this ability once if you attacked with this card this turn. And its Boast ability is 1 and a black. Target player searches their library for a card, puts it on top of their library. So it gets the Vampiric Tutor, basically. Yeah, this one's solid. 2/3 Death Touch for 3. It's an okay stat line and gets in an attack and tutors for your best card. Like, pretty solid utility card. Nothing special. I'm going to put this in the C tier. I don't think it quite belongs to the cards up in the B tier. But, yeah, not a bad card at all. Captain Lannery Storm. Cool one. This is another uncommon. 2 and a red for a 2/2. Haste. When it attacks, you make a treasure token. Whenever you sack a treasure token, Lannery gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So, yeah, very least, she is a 3/2 haste, right? Because you attack, you make a treasure, you can always threaten to sacrifice the treasure. If she gets in once and you get to build up treasures, that's really nice. You can also, on a future turn, maybe attack for 5 or something after you build the treasures, or you like cast a 6-drop ahead of schedule. So pretty solid card with some pretty high ceiling, I would say. Helps you splash, which is not something you do very often in your red decks, but once in a while it happens. So yeah, teetering somewhere between the C tier and the B tier. I'm gonna put it in the C tier, but note that it's like a high C tier kind of card. Light up the stage. Up next, this is a 2 and a red sorcery with Spectacle. And Spectacle is if you have dealt damage to your opponent this turn, or more specifically, if they have lost life, which is pretty much the same thing, but good to make that distinction. You can cast it for a single red mana. It's Spectacle cost. And the effect is exile the top 2 cards of your library. You can play those cards until the end of your next turn. So a really nice fit for like the black-red spells pinging deck, right? Because you're very likely to deal damage, right? And this triggers all your wizards, and you just get more action. So yeah, a good card there. Kind of the same as a lot of the cards we just talked about. A good utility card, basically. But yeah, I would also put this in the C tier. Mizzix's Mastery is up next. This is a 3 and a red for a sorcery. It says exile target spell in your graveyard, instant or sorcery specifically. Make a copy of that card. But it has Overload, which is 5 red. And if you cast it Overload, you can get all the cards in your graveyard, right? So you get to exile all the instant or sorceries, cast them for free. I don't know if I said for free, but that's what this is. You cast a card for free out of your grave. So not a good 4-mana spell generally. Like it's like reanimating a spell kind of. And it's just not a great rate. But in like a blue-red deck where you have a lot of spells, you're seeing a lot of cards, you can get to 8 mana pretty easy. Yeah, I think it's pretty good there. So build around for sure, but I would give it a build around B. I think it's definitely doable. Mostly a blue-red card, but I could also see it in black-red too. I think some black-red decks could pull this off with enough spells. Lightning Bolts. Just a great card. Yeah, this is single red mana. Instant, deals 3 to any target. This one is also an uncommon. Easy B. Just great. Not quite at the A range, of course, but super efficient. Who doesn't love a lightning bolt? Also, I don't think I called out that light up the stage is a uncommon. But yeah, that's one of the uncommons as well. Next up, we've got Najeela the Blade Blossom, which is a 2 and a red 3/2. It says whenever a warrior attacks, you may have its controller make a 1/1 white warrior token that's tapped and attacking. And she is a warrior, so that matters. She also has a 5 mana Wooburg ability, all colors. Untap all attacking creatures. They gain trample, lifelink, and haste until end of turn. And there's an additional combat phase after this one. So yeah, I think good in kind of a weird card because you can't say this for many cards, but it's good in your mono red decks and good in your 5-color decks. I mean, it doesn't have to be mono red, but red aggro decks. So yeah, just as a red aggro threat, good, right? 3/2 attacks makes a 1/1. Fantastic. But yeah, if you are able to activate that ability, that 5 mana ability, that's a really good ability, giving your creatures good abilities, giving a second combat. So yeah, I'm going to put this one in the B tier. Good spread of archetypes, good in. And yeah, I would take this one pretty early. Up next is a card that we all love and no hates. I don't know. Depends on who you are. I know a lot of people are salty when they see turn 1 Ragavan, which is a red mana 2/1 that says when it deals combat damage to an opponent, you make a treasure and you exile the top card of their library. You can cast that card until end of turn. Not with mana of any color. You actually have to spend the right mana, but you make a treasure, of course. Also has dash for 1 in a red, which means if you cast it for its dash cost, it gets haste, but you have to return to your hand on the end step. So yeah, I think in this format, the battlefield gets clogged up pretty quickly. And so Ragavan is still a good card, but I think really what you're hoping with Ragavan is you spike it on turn 1. Because if you spike it on turn 1, you're very likely to win that game, right? You just make treasure, you start snowballing, yada, yada, yada. When you draw it on turn 4, it's not as good, but your opponent still has to really respect it. But I do think that there's a cost to that, right? Just saying like, okay, well, if this card's not in my opening hand, it's not going to be as good as I expect it to be. Dash, of course, makes up for that a little bit. But I am going to put this in the B tier, not in the A tier. I think some people might expect this to be like solid A, never pass this card. I think you shouldn't pass this card very often. But I do think like has a tough enough time getting in. We also saw this in March of the Machine too, where it was also on the bonus sheet. Like its opening hand win rates on 17 lands was like 70%, but its average game in hand win rate was like 50 something, pretty bad. So yeah, as long as you kind of go in with the expectation thinking like, okay, well it's great on 1, but if I draw it later, it's not going to be as good. You're still going to be really happy with the card. Next up, we've got another easy F. This is Carpet of Flowers, which is a green enchantment that says during your main phase, you can add X mana of 1 color to your mana pool, where X is the number of islands target player controls. So even if you knew your opponent was playing islands all the time, I mean, I guess if every single opponent was playing islands, it might be maybe worth it. But even still, that's like, yeah, kind of suspect. So yeah, I think just a easy F. Next up, we've got Farseek. Pretty simple card. This is 1 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for a plains, island, swamp, or mountain. Put it on the battlefield tapped. Cannot, notably, get a forest. If you've got like a double or triple green card in hand. So yeah, just a good utility spell. In your ramp decks, in your green multicolor decks, you're going to want to play this card. So I'm going to give Farseek a C. Finn, up next. Finn the Fangbearer is 1 and a green for a 1/3 death touch. And it says, whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals combat damage to a player, that player receives 2 poison counters. And of course, a player with 10 poison counters loses the game. Yeah, this card is solid. The stat line is just pretty good. 2 mana, 1/3, Death Touch. There's not a ton of other Death Touch in this set. Mostly, it's like this, the Ochu, right? The 1 mana, 1/1. I guess there's Artemon, too, and that's an evasive Death Touch creature, the flyer. So that's kind of cool. Still just kind of lands at a C, just a solid card. This one's another uncommon. I don't know if I said it, but Farseek also an uncommon too. Next up is a sideboard card, Nature's Lore, single green mana for an instant. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Its controller gains 4 life. And another uncommon here. There's artifacts and enchantments running around this set, but I don't really think enough to warrant this as main deck card. So I'm gonna put it in the F tier, but it's not an F, it's just a sideboard card. Prime Time, big old Prime Evil Titan up next. This is 4 green for a 6/6 trample. It says when it enters or attacks, you search your library for 2 lands, put them on the battlefield tapped. Yeah, this one, this is real nice. So, notably, it's not basics. You can search for towns, so that's cool. It's also very, very good with landfall cards. Just a lot of landfall triggers. The other day, I drafted a deck with Nikolai Bolas on his YouTube channel, and we had this card and Chocobo Racetrack, the 5-mana landfall, make it 2/2. And so with that card in play, Primeval Titan turns into like Primeval Titan plus Grave Titan, right? You make 2/2s on each of these triggers. So yeah, Prime Time's great. I think, you know, you could argue high B tier, low A tier, but I'm gonna go A tier for this one. I think it's worth it. I think the synergies of landfall kind of push it over the top. Atraxa up next. Atraxa is a 7-mana card, 3 green, whites, black, blue, for a 7/7 flying vigilance, death touch, lifelink. So that's already phenomenal right there. But also has an absurd enter the battlefield ability. When she enters, you look at the top 10 cards of your library, you take a card of each card type that you see. So you can take a land, a creature, an artifact, you know, whatever. So you draw like 4 or 5 cards. You have this exceptionally good body. Yeah, this is an A. This card is phenomenal. Bruce Tarl is a 2 red-white 3/3 that says whenever he enters or attacks, target creature you control gains double strike and lifelink until end of turn. Yeah, that's pretty nice, right? Just ETB, make your 3-power creature double strike lifelinking. You can give it to itself too. So like, you know, you have this enter, give it to something else, and then on your next turn when this attacks, this can attack as a 3/3 double strike and lifelink. So yeah, really, really solid card. I'm gonna put that in the B tier. Sylvan's Veto is another sideboard card. It is 1 in a blue for an instant. This cannot be countered. You counter target non-creature spell. So yeah, you know, I don't really suggest main decking this card, but you know, pretty good card in the out of the board for those who play best of 3. Next up is Anala, and Anala is a 2 blue, black, red 4/5. She says whenever a non-token wizard enters the battlefield under your control, if Anala is in your command zone, which she won't be, but if she is, or on the battlefield, you can pay 1. And if you do, you create a token copy of that wizard. It gains haste, and you exile it at your end step. She also has the ability, you can tap 5 untapped wizards you control to deal 7 damage to your opponent. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think this card is particularly good. Like, it's 5 mana, it's 3 colors. There are wizards out there, but not an infinite number of them. Like, it's not even like she pays you off in a huge way. Like, you get, like, a hasty copy of it. So, I'm going to probably put this in the F tier, like, somewhere between D and F. This is kind of like, you know, some of the cards we talked about down here where I could imagine you showing me a deck where I'm like, oh, you know what? Anala's like a fine playable here. But it's a lot of squeeze, and I don't think the juice is quite worth the squeeze. So I will give her an F. We've got Ishai up next here. Ishai is a 2 white-blue 1/1 flyer. It says whenever the opponent casts a spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on Ishai. This one is, I think, not great. Like, it starts off as a 4-mana 1/1 flyer. Your opponent, let's just say, casts 2 spells. Okay, so you've got a 3/3 flyer, but not in combat on their turn, most likely, right? They're going to cast their spells post-combat. And then, you know, if this sticks around, it does threaten to get pretty big, but I'm pretty out on this. Just like, you know, also, it's very, very fragile. It dies to cheap removal, so I haven't got enough experience with this card in play. Like, I haven't seen it in play yet to really say for sure if it's an F or a D. I will give it the optimistic D, but I don't know if that's going to ring true. This could just be a card you never want to put in your deck. Next one is Ishin. This is red, white, black for a 3/4. And whenever a creature you control attacks and that causes something to trigger, a permanent to trigger, it triggers an additional time. There's really not a lot of cards in this set that have attack triggers. I mean, we've gone over a few of them, I suppose, on this bonus sheet, but there's very, very few in this set, and it's a 3-color card, so very hard to cast. A 3-color aggro card, no less, so I am going to pretty confidently put this in the F tier. Kinnan up next. This is blue-green for a 2/2. Whenever you tap a non-land for a mana, that permanent adds an additional mana to your mana pool, so you know, your Google Gardener is tapped for 2 mana, basically. Also has the ability, 7 mana, 5 blue-green, look at the top 5 cards of your library, put a creature from among them onto the battlefield, and the rest on the bottom. Sorry, specifically non-human creature. That is important. And yeah, this card is solid. I think that you want both the non-humans and the mana dorks to make it good. But you can imagine in a deck where, you know, you've got maybe 4 permanents that make mana, and you've got some pretty big things that you can spin the wheel on, put into play. It's a mana sink and makes mana, you know, always a nice combination. So I think a little more of a utility card than anything in the B range, but yeah, I like Kennen in the C range. Next up is Crom, which is a 3 blue red 4/4 flying haste. So already that stat line's pretty good. Whenever your opponent casts their second spell in a turn, you draw a card. Yeah, this is really good. I'm a really big fan of Crom. It goes in one of the best decks in blue-red. Flying hasty threat that threatens to draw some cards. So yeah, no, I can't say anything bad about it. Plop it right there in the B tier. We've got Thrasios up next, and this is green-blue for a 1/3. Has the ability 4, scry 1, then reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land, you put it into play, and if it's not a land, you put it into your hand. Yeah, I think this is a fairly solid card. You know, it blocks early, it's a mana sink. Again, not quite in that B tier, but I'd say a solid C for Thrasios. Muldrotha up next. This is a 3 black, green, blue 6/6. It says during each of your turns, you may play a permanent card from your graveyard, one of each permanent type. So you can play a Saga per turn, a creature per turn, a artifact per turn from your graveyard. Yeah, I like Muldrotha. It does have the problem of it being just like a big dummy with no enter the battlefield effect. So, you know, if you get gotten by a removal spell, you feel kind of sad about that. But it does stand to provide a lot of value. Like, if it sticks around, it's very difficult to deal with because, you know, any trades you make, you can just recast your creatures out of the grave. Casting Sagas out of the grave is kind of cool. One note on Muldrotha is that with the Saga creatures in this set, you can choose to cast a Saga out of your graveyard and say, yes, this is the Saga I'm casting this turn, and also cast another creature as like, yes, this is the creature I'm casting this turn. So you're not like, I cast a Saga creature, that locks me out of casting a creature. That's not the way it works. So yeah, I think I'm probably going to put Muldrotha in the C tier. Like I said, lots of value, but is just a big dummy the turn it comes down. And 3 colors. 3 colors doesn't matter that much, to be honest. Like, green decks, they can get to 3 colors. I wouldn't fault anybody if they wanted to think it was in the B tier, but I do think no enter the battlefield effect and no protection does come with some costs. We've got Yuriko up next. Yuriko is a 1 blue-black 1/3 with Commander Ninjutsu for blue-black. And this one, I gotta tell you, I was saying, some people might be reading the cards wrong, and, just read the cards. It's a matter of reading comprehension. This one, if you don't know what Commander Ninjutsu is, you might think, oh, it's Ninjutsu, but for your commander. I mean, it is, but it also works just the same as normal Ninjutsu. So you can pick up an unblocked creature, put this into play tapped and attacking. So yeah, this is a card. It's a real card in the format. You don't have to be playing commander. So we've got a 3 mana 1/3 with Ninjutsu for 2 mana, right? And the Ninjutsu trigger is when this deals combat damage to a player, you reveal the top card of your library, you draw it, and your opponent loses life equal to the mana value of that card. So yeah, pretty good card, especially when you've got stuff like Dragoon's Wyvern in the set. Picking up that to, draw a card and then play the Wyvern again, get a token. That feels pretty good. Obviously, with Ninjutsu creatures, the idea is you want to be playing cheap evasive threats. So you can pick those up, get this into play. Those evasive threats go unblocked more often than non-evasive threats. And in blue-black, there's a decent amount of that. So, yeah, Yuriko is a nice one. I'm going to put her in the C tier. Next up, we've got Vial Smasher. And Vial Smasher is a 1 black-red 2/3 legendary creature that says whenever you cast your first spell each turn, it deals damage equal to its mana value to target opponent. So, yeah, this is a pretty nice one for, like, the red-black burn deal damage deck. If it sticks around for 2-3 turns, probably going to be responsible for, 5, 6, 7 damage. So yeah, it's a narrow card, and it's not really a great splash, I don't think, really just for the red-black deck. But a card I'm very happy to play there. I'd put it in the C tier. Next up, we've got Chromatic Lantern, which is a 3 mana rock, taps to add a mana of any color, and also taps to add, your land also tap to add a mana of any color. I think this is just worse than Blitzball, and Blitzball is not a card I love in this set, so yeah, I mean, not an absolute F. I will play a Manolith sometimes in my multicolor decks, but I think you can just do better. If it's there, and that's your fixing, it's fine, but yeah, I would give it a D. Strixhaven Stadium, I will give an F. This one is one of the uncommons. It's a 3 mana rock that taps to only add colorless. And when you tap it, you put a point counter on it. Also, when you deal damage to your opponents, each instance of dealing damage, you put a point counter on it. And then when they deal damage back to you, you take off a point counter. and when you get to 10 point counters, you win the game. So it's a fun card, it's interesting, but you're gonna win the game before you get to 10 point counters, just through combat damage. A mana rock that adds colorless mana is not good, so we can plop that in the F tier. Okay, our last of the A's, definitely. We got a quick A and a quick F and a duplicate here, but our last of our A's, Smuggler's Copter. So Smuggler's Copter is a 2-mana, 3/3 crew 1 flying vehicle. Okay, so let's just vanilla test that as a vehicle. 2-mana, 3/3 flyer, crew 1, that's good. You'd be very happy about that. Also has the ability, whenever you attack or block with the Copter, you draw a card, discard a card. Just phenomenal. It sculpts your hand while killing the opponent, and for whatever reason, you also get the trigger on blocks if you really want to block with it. So yeah, this is just a excellent colorless card. You should just take this card out of every pack. Like, is there a better first pick than Smuggler's Copter? It might just be the best card to pick on pack 1 in the entire set. And then last one is Command Beacon. And I don't think we need to talk about this. So this is just a straight up, it's a commander card. Don't worry about it. So yeah, that's the bonus sheet. Zoomed out a little bit here so you can see them if you can. I know these are a little bit hard to see what they are. But yeah, I thought this would just be a good way to just talk about all the cards. We didn't get to talk about these in the set review. So those wondering just like, hey, should I be passing this Chroma's Will? My answer is no, don't pass your Chroma's Will. That card's very good. Anyways, yeah, I hope you enjoyed. If you made it this far, like, comment, and subscribe, all that. And we'll see you next time.